you have to do body work to be able to fulfill the esoteric stuff.
Hmm.
Because I don't think people are on board with that right now. Like, I think there's two camps. I think there's the bodywork people and there's the esoteric people. And, eventually, I think in individuals, they bring those two things online. But I think the general population is I go one or the other because I like living in my body and I don't like thinking in these abstract ways, or the opposite.
Yeah.
It's
I guess like I have a hard time seeing how you could not. Because like the spiritual stuff, yeah, it's esoteric, but it's not knowledge-y, like you feel it.
But a lot of people don't, like, a lot of people go that direction to not feel. Like, it makes me feel like I'm moving forward because I have so much knowledge and I'm up here, but I am not feeling anything.
Chasing like philosophy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think, and that's not true for everyone, like there are some people who are embodied and do both, but I do think there's a large subset of people who go this direction, like these systems, do this kind of stuff because they don't want to actually feel their emotions. Like, a lot of the people that get brought into things like this are people who are intellectualizers. They're not feelers. And
Hmm.
that's the disconnect, right? It's like I have so much knowledge. Why is my life not getting better?
Hmm.
Don't you feel like that's like kind of the population that gets drawn in sometimes?
Yeah, I mean it's either that or it's always the either it's both poles. It's like both sides. There's that, but then there's also the other side, which is just like I'm so mushy that nothing ever moves. Like I can't get the world to move forward around me because I've got no backbone.
Yeah.
Like I'm just lost in kind of woo-woo land.
But like those people, the woo-woo land people, like they don't have any form to them. And they don't have any form because they don't know their core. Like, how can you formulate yourself if you have no idea what self is?
Yeah, I mean I think like what you're saying is that in some way they've lost touch with the human part of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it feels better to be so woo-woo. Like, life down here sucks, you
Sometimes.
know?
I
And I
mean,
think
it's just
there's
both
a
ends
lot
of
of
the
people who
stick.
live that way purposely. And it's almost like a level of escapism.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the suffering is real. But
Yeah.
that's why you need like the esoteric part, right? Because if you only have the emotional part, then you're just constantly, or like the embodied part, even not just the emotional part. If you always have just the embodied part, like you're constantly just going to be processing never ending issues that are old and present state issues. Like,
Yeah, those are the people, the hyper empathetic healers, right? Like, those are the people who are just taking on everyone's shit, and maybe they can process it, but it's just like they're clumping through mud.
yeah, I mean, without the connection, I guess where I was going is like without the connection to the divine, you don't understand the purpose for the suffering, and then it becomes unpalatable at a certain point.
Right.
That's really, I guess, I've never thought about it in that way before, but that's like the deep truth of it is like the spiritual side allows you to be able to handle the suffering, which is just part of the human condition.
Mhm.
And the emotional body side allows you to process the stuff that comes as it comes so that you can clear it, so that you can keep clearing. Like, I really think that that's our role is that we're like karma clearing machines.
Yeah. I think also like
And that's a heavy burden.
we're on Earth as human beings, and so the spiritual experience that we're having is through being a human being. So if you live too esoteric, you're not having the spiritual experience you're supposed to be having as a human.
Yeah.
And so it's like, great, you're having a spiritual experience, but you're not doing the human thing.
And the other end, right? The human thing is both ends of the spectrum. We get both. Like we get the steepest, darkest suffering, but we also get like the most ridiculous ecstasy. Like it's both ends. And that's what they're missing out on.
Right. But the problem that we're going to run into, I already see it happening, is how do you get people who have sat themselves on either side of the pole to say, okay, I understand. I do want to have that side too. Like they went that direction for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we can't make anyone do that. That needs to just be an internal switch that happens of like I'm missing out on something that I feel it.
Yeah. And so I think like people are attaching themselves to the gene keys system for a certain reason to solve something, right? And so are the gene keys are people who tend towards gene keys people who tend to be more esoteric? Would you say that?
I would say, yeah, there's a lot of head stuff happening. There's a lot of like trying to understand what's happening. I
Mhm.
honestly think a lot of people are engaging with the gene keys because they feel lost and the kind of outward facing stuff of the gene keys is like we're going to help you find your purpose and we're going to help you find a relationship and we're going to help you start a business that's in line with your soul and like that's what people are coming for. And then all the spiritual stuff kind of sneaks in the back door, which is part of why my message resonates with a very specific segment of people, right? Because I'm deeply into the spiritual arm of it, not as much the practical side, although I do think I'm going to start making more content on the practical side of things.
Meaning what?
I've had this video rolling around in my brain for a few days now where I want to walk through, I'll probably use my pearl sequence and talk about how what I'm doing maps onto it and give people examples of if you have this, this might be a direction or this thing, like how you really nuts and bolts can pick your vocation and your life's work from your sequence, like that kind of thing. The reason that you're here and going back to the original point of this conversation is like that is not a logical process. That's an embodied process in order to be able to get the information that's not my information that like you need to get so that you know what cues to take and what direction to head. Like your body is what gives you all of those messages, not
Yeah,
your head.
exactly.
And so
Right.
I need to tell them, like, this is how you read the thing, and these are some things that you might do, but that's useless without you being able to have a guidance system to march towards what's actually yours.
Yeah. I think that's helpful language. People want to understand what their purpose is. They want to be aligned. It's like, how do you understand you're aligned? You know, it feels specific. It comes from inside. Your heart tells you, your gut tells you. If you're not connected to your heart and your gut, you're going to be floating around asking people if you're aligned, and that's you're going to be in the same spot, right? So,
Yeah, I think that right there is the misunderstanding. The misunderstanding is I'll be aligned when my external circumstances look like I'm aligned, meaning like
yeah,
my money's set. I'm living in a place that I want to live. I've got the car that I want. I have the job that I like, all of that stuff. That I think is what people think is the thing that tells them that they are in alignment. But you'll never get all of that stuff without the kind of radar that you need from developing the connection to yourself.